So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, wave 2 of free agency has officially begun, and Brad Holmes has already started to make some deals and bring in some new players. As of last night, the Detroit Lions signed 2 more members to the active roster, and in a lot of people's opinions, these were very good signings. Very Brad Holmes-esque, very young players with a lot to prove, players with a chip on their shoulder, and players that can come in and make an immediate impact for the Detroit Lions. So today we are going to talk about these 2 players, grade the pickups, grade the signings, and of course give you everything you would need to know about these 2 players going into 2022. So with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get on to the Detroit Lions' 2 newest rostered players. Now, starting off with the first and biggest name player from this signing period, Mike Hughes was a big-time player for the Kansas City Chiefs defense a season ago. He was a starting cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs and was a big reason why their defense had a turnaround in the second half of the season, was a big part as to why the Kansas City secondary had a much better season than years prior. He's a former first-round pick, being the 30th overall selection in the 2018 NFL Draft, and unfortunately, he didn't work out with the Minnesota Vikings. He faced a lot of injuries and just couldn't stay on the field, so the Kansas City Chiefs decided to trade for him, and the Minnesota Vikings decided to trade him away. They thought, if he can't stay on the field, he's not going to help us. We can replace him with Patrick Peterson. We can replace him with this guy or that guy, and any guy that's on the field has to be better than somebody who is not. But last year, Mike Hughes actually stayed healthy for the very first time in his career and played at a very high level. I believe was graded as the 8th best cornerback in the NFL by Pro Football Focus a season ago. Came up with a big-time interception for the Kansas City Chiefs, and again, just played really well in that secondary, having a career year. Now, Mike Hughes is only 25 years old, and as I mentioned, was the 30th overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft class. He has 127 career tackles, 7 career forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, 19 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns on his career. This is somebody that is going to come in and be a depth player, right? He's going to sit behind Okudah, Amani, and AJ Parker, and Jerry Jacobs, and Ifeatu Melifonwu. He's probably not going to play very much football in Detroit, even though he was a really good, high-quality starter with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was somebody that, again, made that secondary very good, but the Lions needed depth. They didn't need a starting cornerback. Amani Oruwariye played like an all-pro last year. Jeff Okudah didn't really get a chance to play last year, again, speaking to that injury concern as to why they hired and why they signed another cornerback in this free agency class, but Jeff Okudah did not look all that bad in week 1. Apart from the one ball to Deebo Samuel that was underthrown that, Jeff Okudah couldn't quite get to, it fell over. Other than that one play, Jeff Okudah had a really good first game under Aaron Glenn and had a really good first game under Aubrey Pleasant. So, our 2 boundary cornerbacks are locked up. AJ Parker played really well in the slot a season ago, and when all of those guys went down, Jerry Jacobs stood up in place of Jeff Okudah. You have Ifeatu Melifonwu, who stood up in place of Amani Oruwariye, and of course Will Harris stepped in and played slot cornerback when AJ Parker was unavailable. The Lions secondary was stretched extremely thin a season ago, signing undrafted free agents and signing waiver wire pickups in the very middle of the season because they simply didn't have enough cornerbacks to field a unit, right? Their cornerbacks for the last 3 to 4 weeks were Will Harris on the boundary and Ifeatu Melifonwu, and then they were starting an undrafted free agent, or they were starting like Jalen Elliott Elliott in the slot sometimes. They did not have any, well, they had depth, but all of their depth got eaten up by injuries a season ago. So again, this is more of a security signing, but you're not going to find a much better depth cornerback than Mike Hughes. Mike Hughes, again, signed a one-year deal for $3.5 million, and our cornerback room is now looking extremely young and extremely talented. Jeff Okudah, a former third overall pick, and a player that, again, in one game last year didn't look all that bad. Amani Oruwariye had 7 interceptions a season ago and played at an all-pro level for the Detroit Lions. You have A.J. Parker, an undrafted free agent from a year ago that played really well, came away with an interception, and manned the slot every game that he was healthy, played really well and exceeded expectations out of Kansas State. Jerry Jacobs started 9 games and played incredibly well. I believe only gave up 1 touchdown, and that was to Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams when Robert Woods caught a touchdown on him. But other than that, he played really well, was super aggressive, very physical, a great tackling cornerback. I think he could push Jeff Okudah for a starting job next year. Not even if Jeff Okudah gets hurt. I'm saying if everybody's healthy, Jerry Jacobs is going to be fighting for that starting spot. Ifeatu Melifonwu, a former top 100 pick, third-round pick a season ago by the Detroit Lions, came away with 2 forced fumbles from a season ago and looked really good in his own right. And then now you add another former first-round pick in Mike Hughes, again, that's coming off of a career year, joining a defense with Aubrey Pleasant, arguably the best defensive backs coach in the NFL, and Aaron Glenn, one of the brightest, youngest defensive minds in the NFL. And Mike Hughes could see a career resurgence with the Detroit Lions if his name is called. And if history is any indication, his name will be called in the Detroit Lions secondary at some point in the season, and he will have to step up and prove himself to the Lions coaching staff and to the football team. So I think Mike Hughes is a great signing. 1 year, $3.5 million. There is very little risk in this signing. It's a really minimal contract. You're paying him $1 million more than you're paying your backup quarterback. You're paying him to be your 6th or 7th cornerback on the roster. It's a really good deal, really good signing, phenomenal depth, better depth than I thought the Lions needed. And I think this kind of eliminates the idea that the Lions might take another cornerback in the NFL draft. If anything, they'll take it in undrafted free agency, but with this solid 6, I don't see the Lions going cornerback in the NFL draft. Now, the Lions did not only make one signing, as mere minutes after Mike Hughes was announced to be a new Detroit Lion, Brad Holmes decided to make one more deal for the night, as he decided to sign Chris Bort, the 26-year-old linebacker from Baltimore, to be a Detroit Lion. Now, Chris Bort, as I said, is a 26-year-old linebacker from Baltimore. He played in the Ravens all 4 years of his NFL career so far, and for a lot of his career, he's been a special teams ace. For a lot of his career, he has been a guy that just plays on special teams, plays kickoff unit, plays punt coverage, and very, very situationally played in defensive schemes. He had a really small role in the Ravens defense, and then there was a couple of games in 2020 where the Ravens were really severely hurting at linebacker, and he got an opportunity to start 2 games in the 2020 NFL season. Now, Chris Bort might not have the flashiest statistics, again, being just a special teams ace, but in his 4-year career, he had 94 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a pass defended. And a lot of those statistics are not coming from special teams, right? You can't get sacks on special teams. You can't get passes defended on special teams. Those all came from the 2 starts he had on that Baltimore defense. So in 2 starts, he had 2.5 sacks and a pass defended. I'm not saying he's going to be a full-time starting linebacker in Detroit. I think that's going to be far from it. I think he is the primary replacement for Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a guy that just left the organization to go to Houston, right? They're bringing in that next special teams ace, that next situational defender. If you need to call on him like we did Jalen Reeves-Maybin a season ago, he's a guy that's more than capable of stepping up and playing at a decent, if not high level for your football team in the time you need for your starting linebackers to recover. But he's going to be a special teams ace. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a special teams captain next year, because from everything I've heard out of Baltimore, he's a great special teams guy, works really, really hard, is a great leader on that special teams unit, and just makes the special team better. Gets them all organized, gets them in the right situations. And from everything I've heard, this guy is a great locker room presence and a phenomenal special teams tackler and just a phenomenal special teams ace. This is going to be our next Miles Killebrew. This is going to be our next Jalen Reeves-Maybin. That guy that is that can step in on a defense, but is just known and is utilized mostly on special teams. I don't have exact details on the contract as of yet, but I do know it is a 1-year contract, and I would be shocked if it was anything more than $1 million a season. But again, just a really solid depth pickup for the Detroit Lions. I don't think the Lions are looking for starters at this point in free agency. I think they're looking for depth. They're building their depth in the free agency market, and they're looking for their big hitters. They're looking for their star power this year in the NFL draft. Now, as of right now, the linebacking core doesn't look all that impressive, right? You have Alex Anzalone, who's returning from a season ago. I thought played really, really well, but a lot of people don't share that opinion. Derek Barnes, the rookie who flashed a ton last year, should get a lot more playing time with Jalen Reeves-Maybin no longer in the building. Again, Chris Bort kind of slides in as that third linebacker, and Anthony Pittman kind of rounds it out with that fourth linebacker. Unlike the cornerback position, this linebacking core still has a lot of work to be done, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more linebacker come off the board in free agency, right? Whether it be Kazir White, whether it be Leighton Vander Esch or Sean Evans, whether it be a linebacker in general, I still think we see one more linebacker come off the board of free agency, and I think we see one linebacker in the draft come off the board, whether it be at that 66th pick or at that 99th pick, or at that 97th pick, whatever pick is down right near the bottom of the top 100. Maybe if Nakobe Dean falls to 32, you take him there. There's a lot of opportunities to take great linebackers in this class, and I think the Lions are going to capitalize on one of those 5 picks and turn it into a starting linebacker within the top 100. But again, the linebacking core isn't looking that bad, right? A lot of people were saying, oh, we have nobody to play linebacker. Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes can man the starting linebacker positions, and Chris Bort can come in situations if one of those two guys gets hurt. If you had one more linebacker in free agency and one more linebacker in the draft, it's a 6 linebacker deep class. It's a 6 linebacker deep room, and it's really not looking all that bad, especially if you had a starter in the draft and in free agency, forcing Derek Barnes and Alex Anzalone to compete for that starting spot. And again, I think Derek Barnes has a super bright future. I think he will end the season as linebacker 1, regardless of what happens in the draft or in the remainder of free agency. Now, I have one more rumor, one more piece of news that has come out, not a signing by the Detroit Lions, but a player the Lions are very, very interested in. Arden Key, the 26-year-old interior defensive lineman from San Francisco, did come in on a visit yesterday to the Detroit Lions. He left Detroit without a deal, but he said he wanted to go through all of his predetermined visits before signing a deal, and the Lions were very, very interested in signing him right away. Now, Arden Key last year had a breakout season, playing 17 games for the 49ers defense, totaling 6.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 17 quarterback hits, despite only playing 35% of the defensive snaps in San Francisco's defense. Now, we don't have a lot of information. Obviously, as I mentioned, he has not been signed to a football team yet, but the Lions are very interested in bringing in Arden Key, likely to be that Nick Williams replacement and likely to slide in, rotate with Michael Brockers, Levi Onwuzurike. But this could be a really good interior pass rusher and a guy that allows the Detroit Lions to maybe pass on Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson at number 2 and wait until 32 or 34 to get your Boye Mafa, your Drake Jackson, right? It allows you to be more flexible at number 2 because you have another pass rusher already in the building with some really high upside for a very cheap contract at a very young age. But with all that being said, that is all the free agency news as of right now. 2 new players are Detroit Lions, and 2 new players were signed last night. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about these signings. I give them both A signings for depth. I know they're not going to be huge impact players right away for the Detroit Lions, right? If everything goes well, neither one of them will see the defensive field for the Lions next year. But as far as depth signings and as far as what the Lions need while not spending big money, I thought both of these were perfect free agent pickups. They were both really, really good signings. Both players that will have impact on special teams and both players that can step in on defense and have confidence that the play level is not going to drop. I really like all of these signings. I like both of these signings so far. Again, I gave it an A-. The only thing keeping it from an A or an A+ is the fact that it's not going to be a true starter, full-time, game breaker player, right? But you're probably not going to get that at this point in free agency. So as far as who's available and what the contracts dictate, I thought Brad Holmes did a phenomenal job with these 2. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Again, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about these signings? I'd be very curious to see what you guys think. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you both so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!